David Love, Countrywide's other founder, wasn't around either, having retired as president and chairman in early. He died of neuropathy in 2003. Love was in some ways the invisible founder, yet he had played a critical role in Countrywide's success, access to capital, the sale of loans in the secondary market, the management of interest and credit risk. These were the important but low profile aspects of the business. Lab focused on. Lab's departure had been entirely graceful. As he got older, his behavior became more erratic. In, Jul- in July 1999, for instance, the news broke that Lab had sold a million shares of his countrywide stock, heartbreaking executive at Publishing Hour. Companies are never supposed to sell to stock without first publishing one. Companies are never supposed to sell stock with first clearing the sale with the legal department and informing the rest of the management team and in the board. Loeb had done neither. When one executives called to ask him why he had sold the stock without telling anybody, Loeb just took it. After Loeb left, Mozilla seriously entertained the idea of selling countrywide. There were lots of potential suitors knocking on his door, and he hired Goldman Sachs to find the best fit. Although Countrywide came close to selling to a big British bank and to Washington Mutual, both on deals fell apart. Even without a sale, there were plenty of executives internally with the ambition and skill to run the company. Countrywide core group of executives joined when the company was young and small, like Mozilla. Most of them lacked an EVH pedigree, but made up for it a combination of business savvy and financial work habits. Most of them had that same chip of their shoulder toward the financial establishment that Mozilla had. That attitude was ingrained in the culture of the company, and was a big part of the reason why Countrywide was always striving to outdo the big boys, even after it had become one of the big boys. For Countrywide stops executives, that deep-stated need to prove themselves never completely went away. Chief among these executives was Stanford Courtland, a graduate of California State University Northwide, who was hired by Countrywide 1779, after spending the early parts of his career as Countrywide auditor. Kurland had an intensive bookish demeanor and slow, almost hesitant way of speaking that served to mask his deep emotion and strong will. In 1995, become the chief operating officer of Countrywide Home Loans, the prime mortgage division that had always accounted for for the bulk of Countrywide's business. 4 years later, Kurland became the division's CEO and joined Countrywide's board. He became a president and chief operating officer of the parent company. To the employees, he was much the boss of Mozilla. Mozilla. It was always Angelo and Stan want to do this, regardless of former executives. Kurland was the one who took into task that Loeb had always handled, making sure that Countrywide's increasingly intricate plumbing worked perfectly. This was no small tax at company that was funding tens of billion of dollars worth of loans every month. He was the inside guy, numbers, the numbers guy, the operation guys, says a former analyst. Pammy Weber analyst Gary Gordon wrote a report celebrating Countrywid's wonderful discipline. That discipline was very much Curlin's doing, and he took great pride in it. He'd later tell people that while he was there was never a single use. He was right. Other mortgage originations occasionally had trouble with funding or the sale of their lands. Countrywide never did. Curland also pushed Countrywide to diversify. He wanted Countrywide to be one of the most admired financial service providers in the country, not just a big mortgage market. To that end, Countrywide bought a bank because the bank was regulated by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Countrywide itself became a bank holding company, which was supervised by the Federal Reserve. Kurland used it to tell people that being under the supervision of the country's two most important banks, regulators gave Countrywide extra credibility. The purchase of the bank also forced Mozilla to leave the board of another bank, a supreme lender called IndyMac, based in Pasadena. IndyMac, which would be taken over by the FDs during the financial crisis, had begun life as Countrywide Mortgage Investments, founded by Mozilla and Loeb, and it was a real estate investment trust or rate that served as an outlet for Countrywide's so-called jumbo loans, the ones that were too big for the GSs to buy. Rates pay called jumbo rates pay out most of their profits as dividends to their shareholders. Starting in the early 1990s, it began to aggregate loans from other lenders and turn them into mortgage-backed securities. It also began to orientate its household mortgage. In other words, the company was starting to compete with Countrywide.